Tonight, I look down on my restaurant from the mezzanine. Every dollar of revenue earned by my own hands. When the glass doors open and the past walks in, my sister, the one who called me the family's waitress, swans in wearing red, playing the part of a VIP. She doesn't know the best table tonight isn't a reward. It's a trap. And before dinner ends, I'll serve her 16 years of contempt, all on one bill for exactly $5,349.50. My name is Savannah Cole. I am 32 years old, and I am the owner and operator of the Copper Lantern, a fine dining establishment in Chicago. From my office on the mezzanine level, I have a clear view of the entire dining floor. It's a perspective I fought for, bled for, and built from the ground up. Tonight, the city is hushed under a thin blanket of early winter snow. Outside, the streets of the Gold Coast are quiet, the flakes dusting the black awnings and gaslights that flank my entrance. But inside the Copper Lantern, it is a different world. It's 8 p.m. on a Friday, the peak of our service. The air is warm, thick with the scent of seared scallops, truffle reduction, and old money. Crystal glasses clink, a low murmur of conversation humming beneath the soft jazz trio playing in the lounge. This isn't just a restaurant, it's a performance. Men in tailored suits and women in evening gowns occupy every velvet booth. My staff, dressed in crisp black and copper-colored aprons, move between the tables with the synchronized grace of dancers, anticipating needs before they are even spoken. I turn away from the one-way glass window and look at the spreadsheets glowing on my dual monitors. Revenue for the quarter is up 12%. We're fully booked. Reservations stretching out for the next 6 weeks. A flicker of pride, sharp and hot, cuts through the perpetual stress. This place, this sanctuary of mahogany and polished brass, was once my grandparents' dilapidated diner in a forgotten town 2 hours south of here. I am the one who dragged it out of ruin, scrubbing away decades of grease and neglect, transforming it into this, every single chair, every piece of silverware, every bottle in the cellar. I chose, I paid for. My gaze shifts to the bank of security monitors on the wall. A grid of 16 screens shows me every angle. I am a commander reviewing her battlefield. Camera 1, the host stand, clear. Camera 3, the bar, 3 deep, bartenders moving like blurs. Camera 9, the kitchen pass, where my chef, Luca, inspects every plate with terrifying precision. I check the pacing, the body language of my team, the expressions of the guests. I see table 4, a regular, laughing. I see table 11, a young couple on a first date, nervous and impressed. Everything is as it should be, orderly, controlled, mine. The sharp knock on my office door breaks the rhythm. Before I can answer, it swings open. Zoe, my new hostess, stands in the doorway, breathless. She's only 20, barely 3 weeks on the job, and her face is pale, her usual bright energy completely gone. She's still clutching the heavy, leather-bound reservation book to her chest like a shield. "Savannah, I'm so sorry to bother you," she stammers, her voice trembling. There's a group, in the lobby. They're demanding a table." I keep my voice even, low. "Zoe, look at the floor. We're on a 2-hour wait for walk-ins, and the book is closed. You know the protocol." "I told them," she whispers, wringing her hands. "I told them twice, but they won't leave. They said they're family of the owner." A cold, familiar dread settles in my stomach, heavy as lead. I mute the jazz trio's feed on my computer. "Describe them." 5 women, Zoe says, rushing the words out. "Dressed very expensive, loud, the one in charge. She's... Spit it out, Zoe." "She's blonde, wearing this really bright red dress, and she's holding her phone, talking really loudly to everyone in the lobby, telling them this is her sister's place and she always gets a table." My blood runs cold. I don't need Zoe to finish. I already know. "She said her name is Brielle," Zoe finally says. She said she's your sister." I turn back to the monitors, my hand steady on the mouse. I find the lobby camera. Number 2. I zoom in. And there she is. Brielle Cole, my 26-year-old sister, a professional influencer who influences nothing but her credit card balance. She's exactly as Zoe described. Blonde hair freshly blown out, a dress that costs more than Zoe's monthly rent, and a painted-on smile of pure, unadulterated entitlement. She's surrounded by 4 friends, all of whom look like carbon copies, all staring down their noses at the other patient, waiting guests. As I watch, Brielle taps her phone, and I can see the screen light up. She's putting someone on speakerphone, holding it aloft. She's performing, turning the lobby of my restaurant into her personal stage, intentionally making a scene so that every other person waiting, the ones who made reservations weeks ago, the ones who respect the rules, can hear her. She's casually telling a story about my sister, the restaurant mogul, making it sound like she's a partner, not a parasite. My jaw tightens. The old wounds, the ones I keep stitched up tight during service, begin to ache. A hot flash of anger mixes with a deeper, colder pain. This is her pattern. She uses my name, my success, as her currency, and in return, she offers only disdain. Zoe is watching me, her eyes wide with fear. What should I do? I take a slow, steadying breath. I force the emotion down. On the floor of the Copper Lantern, I am not a sister. I am not the family waitress. I am the owner, and the owner protects her house. Go back downstairs, I say, my voice clipped and cool. Tell Miss Cole that we are, unfortunately, fully committed this evening. Treat her exactly as you would any other walk-in. Be polite, be firm, and do not, under any circumstances, acknowledge her claim. But she's threatening to call you, Zoe says, her voice cracking. She said she'd get the whole staff fired if we don't seat her. The arrogance of it, the sheer predictable audacity. She won't call me, Zoe. She knows I won't answer. I give her what I hope is a reassuring look. You are doing your job perfectly. Follow the procedure. If she continues to cause a disturbance, tell her you will. Ask Miss Savannah if any special arrangements can be made. Then come straight back here. Zoe nods, a little color returning to her face. She understands an order. She flees, closing the door softly behind her. I watch her on the camera as she walks back to the host stand. I watch her approach Brielle, her shoulders set. I can't hear the audio, but I don't need to. I see Brielle's face twist from performative charm to genuine fury. Her mouth forms a hard, ugly shape. Her friends cross their arms, looking bored and annoyed. I am now, as I have been so many times before, at a crossroads. 2 choices. Choice 1. I go down there. I smile the fake smile. I placate her. I apologize to my staff for her behavior. I shuffle tables, piss off a reservation, and give her a free meal to keep the peace in the family. This is the path of least resistance. This is what my mother would tell me to do. Just indulge her. Savannah, she'd say. It's easier. This is what I have always done. Choice 2. I do something different. I draw a line, not in sand, but in concrete. Zoe is already walking back, her face grim. She's going to tell me it didn't work. I look away from the lobby camera. My eyes drift to the feed from camera 12. It's focused on the back corner of the main dining room. Table 17. It's the best table in the house, a plush, semicircular booth with a view of the entire restaurant and the snowy street beyond. It's isolated, intimate. It's also the only table with its own dedicated lighting system. And it's the only table with a menu that has no prices. I designed Table 17 for high-profile guests, celebrities, politicians, people who want privacy, and for whom cost is an abstract concept, but it also serves a secondary purpose. It's my nuclear option. A very small, very cold smile touches my lips. It doesn't reach my eyes. The door opens. Zoe is back, as predicted, looking defeated. She refuses to leave. She's taking pictures of the lobby and posting them, saying we're refusing service to family. Savannah, she's tagging the restaurant. I nod slowly. Of course she is. Public humiliation is her favorite weapon. It's all right, Zoe, I say, my voice calm. I stand up, smoothing the front of my black silk blouse. You handled it perfectly. Now, please go back down. Tell Miss Cole that I apologize for the confusion. Tell her I was holding my personal table for her all along. Zoe blinks, confused. But table 17? That's... Tell her, I continue, cutting her off gently, that table 17 is now ready for her and her guests, and that her first round of drinks tonight will be on the house, as my personal welcome. Zoe's confusion melts into relief. She thinks I'm caving. She thinks I'm just giving the bully what she wants. She nods quickly and rushes out again. I watch the lobby monitor. I see Zoe deliver the message. I see the smug, triumphant smile spread across Brielle's face. She blows a kiss at the camera she knows is there. A kiss aimed directly at me. She thinks she's won. She thinks her influencer status and her family name have once again bent the world to her will. I watch her and her friends follow Zoe, strutting through my dining room like they own the place, like their presence is a gift. I sit back down at my desk. I pick up the phone and dial Luca's extension in the kitchen. Luca, I say, my voice devoid of all warmth. Table 17, 5 tops. It's my sister. There's a pause on the line. Luca knows my family. Give them everything, I say. The A5 Wagyu, the Alaskan king crab, the winter truffles. Shave them at the table. Open the 94 Petrus if they even look at the wine list. Whatever they ask for, whatever they point at, the answer is yes. Send it. Send it all. Savannah, Luca says, his voice a low warning. Are you sure? Yes, I say. But, Luca, make sure your team tracks the cost of every single item, down to the gram. I hang up before he can argue. I turn my chair back to the monitors, my eyes fixed on the feed from camera 12. I watch them settle into the booth, laughing, already snapping photos of the menu, blissfully unaware that it's blank. Tonight, there will be no more family discounts. Tonight, there will be no more keeping the peace. Tonight, I am no longer the family's waitress. Tonight, my sister is finally going to pay her own bill. On camera 12, I watch them. The server, a professional I trained myself, is pouring the first round of complimentary champagne, not the house sparkling. This is the $60 a glass vintage I reserve for proposals and high-value anniversaries. Brielle holds her flute up, her spine straight, her smile dazzling. She is performing for her friends, for the room, for the small, dark lens of her smartphone, which is already propped up on the table, recording. She is the star. The restaurant is her set. She has no idea I am in the booth, watching her, listening. She has no idea I am the director, and that I am the one who built the stage. Watching her laugh, so careless and bright, triggers something. It is not the clean, sharp scent of my own kitchen, of white wine reduction and browned butter. It is a different smell, one that pulls me back 2 decades. It is the heavy, thick aroma of frying onions, stale coffee, and the industrial-strength lemon polish my grandmother used on the vinyl booths every single night. I was 12 years old, standing on an overturned milk crate to reach the bottom of the 3-compartment sink at Cole's Diner. My hands were perpetually chapped, stinging from the hot, greasy water. Cole's Diner, a small, worn-down institution in our forgotten town in central Illinois, was my grandparents' entire world, and from the second I could carry a plate without dropping it, it became mine, too. I washed dishes, I cleared tables, I learned the names of the regulars, and I learned how to smile at a stranger even when my feet felt like they were on fire. Brielle, 6 years my junior, was never allowed near the sink. She was never allowed to get her hands dirty. She was the princess. She would sit in the corner booth, the one with the least cracked vinyl, coloring in her books while customers and staff fawned over her bright blonde curls. "Oh, she's just a little doll," they would coo, handing her a maraschino cherry. She's got real star quality. That one. My parents, especially, nurtured this. They saw her as the family's lottery ticket. She was the beauty, the one who would get out, who would marry rich or be famous. I was just the one who worked. I was the reliable one, the one who stayed. When Brielle was occasionally forced to help during a bad rush, she would pout, or accidentally spill a drink, or whine that the plates were too heavy, until my grandmother, exasperated but fond, would shoo her back to her booth with a cookie. "She's just not cut out for it, Savannah," my mother would sigh, as if I were. But my grandparents saw the work differently. My grandfather, his apron stained from 50 years at the grill, taught me the true meaning of the restaurant. He'd find me rubbing my aching shoulders by the walk-in. "Listen to me, Savannah," he'd say, his voice a low rumble. "In this diner, there is no up and there is no down. The person washing the dishes is just as important as the person cooking the food. Without clean plates, the best steak in the world is just garbage on a dirty table. Never forget that. The work has dignity." He taught me pride. My grandmother taught me the ledger. They taught me that the work was honorable. The honor, it turned out, was not transferable to my sister. The sharpest memory, the one that serves as the blueprint for tonight, happened on my 16th birthday. It was a Friday. My grandparents did the unthinkable. They closed the diner. They hung a hand-painted sign on the glass door. "Closed for a private family celebration," and threw a party just for me. The staff came, the regulars, a few of my friends from school. My grandmother baked a towering 7-layer chocolate cake, her specialty. I remember standing there, surrounded by the only community I had ever known, feeling, for the first time, not like the help, but like the focus. Mr. Henderson, our oldest customer, raised his glass of cheap sparkling cider. "A toast," he boomed, "to Savannah, the rightful heir. She'll be running this place better than her grandparents in 10 years. Mark my words." Everyone cheered. My face went hot, but my heart swelled. I felt seen. I saw Brielle watching from the corner, near the jukebox. She was only 10, but her eyes were cold, sharp with a jealousy that felt ancient. While I was busy opening a gift, I heard a sudden, collective gasp. I turned around. The cake, my grandmother's 7-layer masterpiece, was on the floor. It was upside down, a tragic smear of chocolate frosting and yellow crumbs on the black and white linoleum. Brielle stood over it. Her bottom lip stuck out, her eyes wide, a perfect performance of "oops." "It slipped," she whispered, her voice trembling. Later, after my grandmother had sadly salvaged what scraps she could and the party was winding down, I found Brielle alone by the service station. I wasn't even angry, just confused. "Why did you do that, Brie?" I asked quietly. She stopped fidgeting with the straws. She didn't look at me. She just smiled, a small, knowing smirk that did not belong on a 10-year-old's face. "Everyone was looking at you," she whispered, the words so quiet, only I could hear them. "It was stupid. They're all stupid. You're just a waitress. Savannah, you were born to serve. Don't ever think you're better than that." That whisper became the soundtrack to my life. 2 years later, when I was 18, the bottom fell out. My grandfather collapsed during the Saturday morning rush, a fatal heart attack right at his grill. My grandmother, untethered from her partner of 50 years, simply faded. She was gone 6 months later. The diner, the beating heart of our family, stopped. The roof started to leak. The ancient walk-in freezer gasped its last breath. The bills piled up. My parents, who had always treated the diner as an inconvenient, greasy burden, saw their opening. "This town is a dead end," my father announced one night over a stack of final notices. "The climate is terrible. We're moving to Florida. It will be better for your mother's nerves." They packed their bags. They cashed out the small insurance policy my grandparents had left. And they looked at me, the strong one, the one who was good at handling things. "You'll deal with the diner, won't you, honey?" my mother said, not asking. but stating, "Just sell off the equipment, pay what you can. You know how to handle these things." They left. They left me at 18 in a dying town with a mountain of debt, a decaying building, and the keys to an empty house. The money from that insurance policy, the money that could have saved the diner, didn't go to fixing the roof. It went to Brielle's first-year tuition at a private university in California. It paid for her sorority dues. It paid for her spring break trip to Cabo, photos of which she posted gleefully online while I was at the local courthouse, negotiating a payment plan for my grandparents' property taxes. My mother's phone calls were regular, and they were always the same. "Savannah, you're the one who knows how to sacrifice," she'd say, her voice distant. "You're the one who's good at being frugal. Your sister. She needs this chance. She needs to be around the right people, to make connections. We're all counting on her. You're sacrificing for the family's future." My sacrifice, her future. It took me 5 years. 5 years of working 3 jobs, waitressing at other, better restaurants, learning their systems, their wine pairings, their management software. I took online business courses at the community college. I sold my grandparents' furniture, piece by piece. I took out loans that made me sick to my stomach. Finally, I sold the diner building itself for pennies, just to be free of it. I packed my car with my few remaining possessions, drove to Chicago, and bet everything I had, every cent I had borrowed and saved, on a failed bar in the Gold Coast. I renamed it the Copper Lantern. It was a nod to the old, dented copper lanterns my grandfather had kept hanging over the diner booths. He always said they were the first things he and Grandma bought together after the war. It was the only piece of them, of that past, that I brought with me. On my screen, Brielle is laughing, throwing her head back. She dropped out of that expensive university after 2 years. Of course, she declared it creatively stifling. Now, she creates content. She lives in a curated world of filters and brand partnerships, showcasing a luxury lifestyle she doesn't pay for, and her favorite narrative, the one that gets her the most engagement, is the story of her incredibly successful, generous sister. She tells her thousands of followers about "my sister, the restaurant queen," as if she had any part in building this. This isn't the first time she's pulled this. About a year ago, she brought a similar group of friends. She'd marched in, demanding the best table, ordering bottles of Dom Perignon, and then, at the end of the night, just waved her hand when the bill came. It was over $900. "My sister will handle it," she'd said to the server, loud enough for other tables to hear. "We're sisters. Just comp it for us. It'll be fun." I was weaker then, more concerned with keeping the peace and avoiding a scene. I paid the bill myself. I paid it out of my personal account, so it wouldn't hurt the restaurant's bottom line or my staff's tips. But the real wound, the deepest cut, came a few months after that. I had comped her a seat at a high-profile charity dinner I was hosting. I overheard her later, by the bar, talking to a group of actual VIPs, investors, city council members. She was laughing, that high, tinkling laugh she uses when she's trying to impress. "Oh, my sister?" she'd said, gesturing vaguely toward the kitchen. "I love her to death, but she was just born to be a waitress. She lives for this stuff. Me? I have the star quality. She handles the service. I handle the spotlight. You were born to serve." The same whisper, the same poison, just louder, public. That night, hearing those words echo in my own establishment, something inside me didn't break. It solidified. It hardened into something sharp and cold. I watch her on the monitor. She has just waved down the sommelier. She is pointing at the wine list, the one I designed without prices. She is ordering the king crab. She is asking for the white truffle service, an add-on that costs $400 an ounce. She is performing the role of a person who doesn't care about the cost, because she truly, fundamentally believes she will not be the one to pay it. I realized the truth that night. If I don't stop this, I will spend the rest of my life as her waitress. I will spend the rest of my life cleaning up the messes she and my family leave behind. paying the bills for the party they are having at my expense. My grandfather taught me that the dishwasher and the cook are equal. He was right. The work has dignity. But he never told me what to do when the person eating the food spits on the person who served it. I watch her take a selfie with her friends, the flash glinting off the crystal. The trap is set. And for the first time in my life, I am not thinking about keeping the peace. I am thinking about the cold, hard math of the final bill, the decision to change the rules, to build the fortress that I now command, wasn't born from a single night of anger. It was born from a spreadsheet. About 6 months after the waitress comment at the charity dinner, I was staring at my third quarter projections, and the math didn't work. The numbers were red. We were bleeding, hemorrhaging cash, and I couldn't figure out why. Our reservations were solid. Our reviews were stellar. But the profit margin was evaporating. I spent a week locked in this office with Luca, my chef, and my small finance team. We audited everything, from the cost of Belgian endives to the number of broken wine glasses. The problem wasn't the food cost. It was the comps. It turned out that Brielle's Comp It for Fun visit had been the tip of the iceberg. Word had gotten out among her circle, and by extension, my parents' circle, that the copper lantern was a soft touch. Friends of the family were appearing constantly, a distant cousin I hadn't seen in a decade, my mother's golf partner, my father's old fraternity brother passing through town. They all came, they all ate, and they all expected the family discount, which in their minds meant free. And I, still trapped in the old patterns, still trying to be the good daughter, the accommodating sister, had let it happen. I had been comping checks worth hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars a week, all in the name of keeping the peace. I was on a path to bankruptcy. I had almost killed my grandparents' legacy and my own future, not through bad business, but by trying to appease people who had no respect for the work. That was the day the waitress died, and the owner took full control. "No more," I announced to Luca, my voice hoarse. "It stops. Today." We spent the next 72 hours building the new system. It wasn't just a policy. It was a protocol. We called it, without irony, the VIP protocol. First, Luca and I sat down with the finance team. No VIP table, for any reason, is seated without a credit card and a valid ID on file, I declared. No exceptions. I don't care if it's the mayor. I don't care if it's my mother. Then, we redesigned the very concept of VIP. My previous high-end table had been a vulnerability. This new one would be a tool. Table 17 was born. We tore out a little used corner of the dining room and built it from scratch. It wasn't just a table. As I said, it's a stage. The lighting is on a separate dimmer, controlled from my office. The acoustics are designed so that the table's conversation is contained, but the occupants can be clearly seen by the rest of the dining room. It's built for performance. And the menu. Luca and I had the most fun with the menu. "No prices," I said. "Only descriptions." "They will order like drunken sailors," Luca warned, a rare smile on his face. "That," I replied, "is the entire point." We curated it with every high-margin, high-impact item we had. The dry-aged tomahawk, the Siberian sturgeon caviar service, the imported white truffles, the supplemental vertical tasting of rare wines. It was a menu designed to escalate, a financial minefield disguised as a luxury experience. For the clients it was truly designed for, the billionaires, the celebrities. The bill was a badge of honor. For anyone else, it was a trap. My next step was quieter. I called my security solutions provider. I told them I was having an issue with service discrepancies. I paid for a full upgrade to my camera system. The new cameras weren't just high definition. They had high-fidelity audio recording, specifically calibrated for the ambient noise of a busy restaurant. The feeds were no longer overwritten after 24 hours. They are now stored on a secure server, cloud-backed, for 30 days. I wasn't installing it to threaten my guests. I was installing it to protect my staff. I needed a perfect, objective record of every interaction, every order placed, every threat made. With the hardware in place, I focused on the software, my team. I called an all-staff meeting, on a day we were closed, and I paid everyone for their time. From now on, I told them, standing in the center of the dining room, we have a new rule, and it is the most important one. You are not the help. You are hospitality professionals, and you will not be abused, not by a guest, not by a vendor, and not, I took a deep breath, by my family. I looked at their faces. Some, the veterans, looked relieved. The new ones, like Zoe, looked terrified. Zoe had only been with me a few weeks then, but I saw myself in her so clearly it ached. She's a student at the Art Institute, working 30 hours a week to pay her tuition, just as I had worked to pay my family's debts. She's smart, she's dedicated, and she still has that light in her eyes that the industry hasn't managed to stamp out yet. She is the younger me, the one who just needed someone to protect her. I looked directly at her. If anyone, and I mean anyone, speaks down to you, implies you are just a waitress, or threatens you, you do not engage, you call for a manager. If the manager can't solve it, they call me. If it's a member of my family, you call me directly. You have my permission to walk away from any table that disrespects you. I will handle it. No one will ever be fired here for being disrespected. Am I clear? The yes chef and yes Savannah that came back was the most unified sound I had ever heard from them. I knew, even as I said it, that this system was built for one person. It was designed to withstand one specific, entitled, blonde storm. In my heart, the part of me that still remembered sharing a room and telling ghost stories, I hoped I would never have to use the Table 17 plan on Brielle. I hoped she would grow up. I hoped my silence and distance would send a message. But the logical part of me, the part that ran the numbers and saw the patterns, knew it was only a matter of time. In my office, on the wall behind my desk, I have a simple, framed piece of paper. It's not my business license or a glowing review. It's an old, yellowed receipt from the diner, from 1998. On the back, in my grandfather's slanted, forceful handwriting, is a note he left for a new busboy who was complaining about cleaning the bathrooms. It just says, "There is no low work, only people who don't know respect." I read it every day. It reminds me of what I'm protecting, the dignity of the work. The final piece of the plan clicked into place 3 days ago. I was scrolling through my social media feed, a habit I hate, but it's a necessary part of a restaurant owner's market research, and then I saw it. It was a post from Brielle, a glossy, filtered photo of her laughing in an expensive-looking car. The caption was what made my blood freeze. "Get ready. Chicago. Big weekend ahead. Planning an all-inclusive VIP night at the best restaurant in the city. Big Sis is rolling out the red carpet for me and my squad. Stay tuned for the live story. It's going to be epic. Sponsored VIP Life Sister Goals, Chicago." Fine dining hosted. All-inclusive. Courtesy of Big Sis, hosted. She had pre-planned it. She had announced it to her followers. She wasn't just planning to get a free meal. She was planning to use my name, my business, as currency for her own brand, all under the false pretense that I was a willing participant, a sponsor. She had already written the script. She had already cast me in the role of the generous, subservient provider. The old Savannah would have called her, screaming. The old Savannah would have texted, "What the hell is this? Brielle, take it down." She would have started a family war before the battle even began. The new Savannah just smiled. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't warn her. I let her keep the post up. I let her build the anticipation. I let her walk, with all her unearned confidence, directly into the trap I had built for her, on my home turf, where I control every light, every camera, and every single line item on the bill. At the pre-shift meeting tonight, just before service, I made my last move. I gathered the whole team, front and back of house. I ran through the specials, the 86 items, the reservations of note. Then I paused. "One final note. Team," I said, my voice perfectly casual. We've had a small uptick in people dropping my name at the host stand, trying to get a table. I want to be clear on the new standard reply. I looked at Zoe, then at the rest of the front of house staff. If any person, no matter who they are, says, "I know the owner," or "I am family," your one and only response is this: "That's wonderful. The owner also respects the restaurant's policies, so I'm sure you won't mind me taking your name for the waitlist/confirming your reservation. Is that understood?" A chorus of, "Yes, Savannah." Good. Have a great service. And now, as I watch camera 12, I see all the pieces moving in perfect sync. The cameras are recording the audio of her ordering another bottle of the Petrus. The priceless menu is resting on her lap. The credit card policy is waiting in the check folio. My staff is protected by a wall of my own making, and the memory of her voice, "You were born to serve," is the fuel. This isn't just a dinner service, it's an audit. And I'm about to teach my sister a long overdue lesson in the only language she has ever truly understood: the brutal, undeniable clarity of money and the public humiliation of its loss. I watch the lobby feed as Zoe, her shoulders squared, returns to the front desk. The performance is about to begin. She delivers her lines perfectly, just as I told her to. "Miss Cole, I'm so sorry, but we are fully committed tonight. We have no available tables." Brielle, who had been posing for a selfie with her friends, freezes. Her smile tightens. She lowers her phone. "I'm sorry," she says, her voice suddenly climbing an octave, dripping with theatrical disbelief. "I think you misheard me. I'm Brielle Cole, Savannah's sister. She is expecting me." "I understand, ma'am, but we just don't have the space," Zoe begins. Brielle cuts her off, her voice now loud enough to carry across the lobby, loud enough for the other waiting guests to hear clearly. "This is ridiculous. Savannah would never make her sister wait. She would never let me stand here like some commoner." One of her friends, a sharp-faced brunette in a black dress so tight it looked painted on, steps forward. Her name is Kendall, a C-list blogger who rides Brielle's coattails. She leans in, smiling a toxic sweet smile at Zoe. "That's a cute little uniform," Kendall says, eyeing Zoe's copper-colored apron. "Is this it? Is this, like, the peak of your whole career? Telling people no?" Zoe flinches, a flash of humiliation and anger in her eyes. It's the exact look I remember feeling 1,000 times at the diner. The lobby is quiet now. The other guests are staring. A man in a Brioni suit, waiting for his car, glances up from his phone. From the corner of my mezzanine window, I can see a couple at a table near the front look up, intrigued by the drama. One of them, I note with a cold pang of irony, recognizes me in the window, watching. I do not move. I am stone. I press the button for the silent intercom that feeds directly to Zoe's earpiece. She's the only one who can hear me. "Zoe," I say, my voice calm and low. "Hold your ground. Now. You're going to go back. You're going to tell her I have personally made an accommodation and that I've released my private table for her." I watch Zoe's back straighten, just a fraction. "But, Zoe," I continue, "this is the important part. You will tell her that due to a new VIP reservation policy, you must have a credit card and valid ID from Miss Brielle to hold the booking. Tell her it is a security measure for all high-value tables. No card, no table. Do not seat them without it." Zoe's head gives a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. She turns back to the group, her face a mask of professional politeness. "Miss Cole, I've just spoken with Miss Savannah. She apologizes for the confusion. She has made her personal table. Table 17, available for you." Brielle's face instantly transforms from fury to smug, vindicated triumph. "Well, of course she has," she scoffs, flipping her hair. "See? I told you." "Right this way, ma'am," Zoe says, picking up the menus. "I just need one quick thing for our new VIP policy. I'll need a credit card and an ID to hold the reservation. We have to do it for all our high-value tables now. For a second, Brielle's smile falters. I see the flicker of annoyance. Being asked for a card is not part of her princess script. A card? Kendall scoffs. Don't you know who she is? It's just for the reservation file, Zoe says, her voice firm, unwavering. I feel a surge of pride. A formality. Brielle looks around. The lobby is still watching. To refuse, to argue about a formality, would make her look cheap. Her entire brand is built on the illusion of effortless wealth. She sighs, a dramatic, put-upon sound, and yanks her wallet from her designer clutch. Ugh, fine. This place has so much red tape, she complains, handing over a glittery Amex. Zoe takes it. She swipes it. I see on my own terminal as the pre-authorization for $1 goes through, capturing the card data. Thank you so much, Miss Cole, Zoe says, handing it back. Right this way. As she follows Zoe toward the dining room, Brielle already has her phone out, a bright light shining on her face as she records a story. You guys, the drama, she chirps to her followers. They almost didn't have a table for us. Can you imagine? But I just had to say one word. And of course, my sister is giving us the best table in the house, the private VIP one. That's my powerful sister for you. Love you, sis. She blows a kiss at the camera. A kiss she thinks is for her fans, but I know is for me. I let her feel victorious. I let her strut across my dining room, a conquering hero. The second they are seated, I am on the phone, first, to the bar. Liam, I say to my bar manager. The 5 top at table 17. I am sending them their first round of drinks on the house. A personal welcome from me. Don't send the house Prosecco. Send the $40 a glass vintage champagne. Got it. Savannah, he says. A welcome? Exactly, I say. Make them feel very, very welcome. I hang up and dial the kitchen. Luca. I'm watching them, is all he says. His voice a low growl. Luca, I want you to send it. Send it all. Start them with the Grand Seafood Tower. And put it on my personal comp tab. Let them think the free gifts are just starting. Savannah. After that, nothing is held back. They order the A5. I want to hear you yell, yes. They ask for the king crab. I want you to send the biggest legs we have. And Luca, I want you to go out there yourself and offer them the white truffle service. Shave it until their arms get tired. A low chuckle from his end. With pleasure, boss. A la carte. Full price. Full price, I confirm. For the next 3 hours, I don't look at my spreadsheets. I don't check the other reservations. I watch one monitor. Camera 12. The complimentary champagne arrives. They cheer. The complimentary seafood tower, a 3-tiered monument of oysters, lobster, and crab claws that I sell for $600, arrives moments later. Their shrieks of delight are audible even over the ambient sound. Their guards are not just down, they are completely gone, washed away in a tide of free champagne. They dive into the priceless menu with the ravenous, careless confidence of people who believe they have already won. My audio feed pipes their conversation directly into my office. Oh my God. Kendall, you have to try the caviar. Brielle gushes, her mouth full. Brie, this is how it should always be, Kendall replies, snapping her fingers in the air for the server, a gesture that makes my skin crawl. I'm serious. Why do we ever pay for anything? Influencers aren't supposed to pay, sweetie. Another friend, a girl named Lauren, says, scrolling through her phone. That's the point of the influence. The restaurant gets the exposure. We get the meal. It's like symbiosis. They are loud. They are rude. They send back a bottle of wine, a $180 bottle they ordered, claiming it's too warm, forcing my sommelier to apologize and fetch another, which they then praise. Even though it's the exact same vintage, they are on a power trip, drunk on entitlement and free champagne. At one point, I see the one friend, Maya, the one who looked hesitant in Part 1's memory, lean in. Her voice is a low murmur, but my system picks it up. Brielle, she whispers, looking around nervously. This is This is a lot of food. That was the second tomahawk steak. Are you positive Savannah meant to comp all of this? Brielle rolls her eyes so hard I can see it from my mezzanine. Maya, oh my God, stop being poor, she snaps, her voice full of disdain. Of course she is. She's my sister. This is what she does. She has a whole restaurant. This is like 0.01% to her. It's fine. And then, for the grand finale, Brielle props her phone up against a water glass. The red live button appears in the corner of her screen. Hey, everyone, she beams, talking to her thousands of followers. We are living our best lives at the Copper Lantern. My sister is spoiling us. She is the best sister in the entire world. She reaches out and pats the heavy leather-bound menu. She even gave us the special menu, you guys, she says, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial, bragging whisper. It's the one with no prices, the one where you just point at what you want, and you don't have to look at the numbers. That, my friends, is when you know you've made it. I stare at the screen. I watch her order another round of espresso martinis, a final flourish on an evening of gluttony. And as I watch her laugh, I remember the night the main air conditioning unit for the kitchen died in the middle of a July heat wave. It was a $4,000 repair, and I had to put it on my personal credit card, praying I could make payroll the next week. I remember the emergency plumber's bill from last winter when a pipe burst under the bar, flooding the cellar. That was $2,300 I hadn't budgeted for. I remember the long nights, the 17-hour days, the sacrificed weekends, the skipped meals, the deep, abiding loneliness of building this place while my family was in Florida. Recharging. All the bitterness, all the old resentments, I push them down. They don't become sadness. They become fuel. They become a cold, hard, and perfectly calm resolve. This isn't a family dinner. This is an audit. I look at Brielle, laughing on my monitor. She thinks she's the star of the show. She thinks she's the one in control. She has no idea that this is not a rescue. I am not her safety net tonight. I am not the family waitress coming to clean up her mess. Tonight, for the first time in her pampered, privileged life, Brielle Cole is going to pick up her own check, and I, her sister, am going to be the one to hand it to her. The performance has been running for nearly 3 hours. On camera 12, the battlefield is a picture of gluttony. Empty plates, smeared with the remnants of Luca's best work, are piled high. The fourth, or is it the fifth, empty bottle of wine stands beside a graveyard of empty cocktail glasses. The final act, a decadent chocolate soufflé, has just been served. It is a masterpiece, puffed high and dusted with cocoa, and, as a final touch of ironic gilding, topped with a delicate sheet of edible 24-karat gold leaf. They devoured it. They took selfies with it. And now, the last spoon has been scraped. Brielle leans back in the booth, patting her stomach with a sigh of theatrical, performative bliss. The show is over. It is time for the curtain call. I watch as my server, Ramon, clears the final plates. He does it with his usual quiet efficiency, not a single wasted movement. He does not ask them if they need anything else. He knows the script. I pick up my office phone and dial Zoe's extension at the host stand. Zoe, I say, it's time. Yes, Savannah, she says. Her voice is clear, steady. She is ready. Print the check for table 17, the full itemized bill. Put it in our standard black folio. You will walk it over yourself. You will place it on the table. You will say, whenever you're ready, Miss Cole. You will not say anything else. Then you will walk away, back to the host stand. Do you understand? Yes, Savannah. She will call you back. She will be angry. Remember what I told you. Remember the policy. And remember, I add, my voice softening for just a second. I am watching. You are safe. You are doing your job. Thank you, Savannah. She hangs up. On my monitor, I see her walk to the main POS terminal. I see the receipt printers spit out the record of their evening. It is not a single slip. It is a long, continuous stream of paper. It is, as I had predicted, almost as long as my arm. Zoe carefully folds it, tucks it into the folio, and begins the long walk across the dining room. I switch to the audio feed for table 17, turning the volume up. Zoe's footsteps are silent. She appears at Brielle's side. "Whenever you're ready, Miss Cole." She places the black leather folio gently on the table, right next to Brielle's hand, and, exactly as instructed, she turns and walks away. "Oh, the bill," Brielle laughs, as if it's a prop. "How adorable. She thinks we're paying." Kendall giggles. "Maybe it's like a souvenir, like, look how much money we saved." Brielle picks up the folio. Her phone is still in her other hand. Screen dark, but ready. She is the star. After all, she flips it open, her smile still in place. I watch her face. It is a thing of beauty. The smile doesn't just fade, it snaps off, like a light being extinguished. Her eyes, wide and bright, scan the column of numbers. I can see her lips moving, silently trying to add, to comprehend. Her face goes blank. Then she blinks. Once, twice, 3 times, hard, as if to clear a vision. She snaps the folio shut so hard the sound is like a gunshot on the audio feed. "Nope," she says, her voice suddenly high and thin. "Absolutely not." She lets out a short, sharp, unnatural laugh. "They must have made a mistake. This is crazy. They've given us the wrong bill. Must be for the whole room." She looks up, her eyes scanning for Zoe. She waves her hand in the air, a rude, demanding gesture. "Hostess, girl, over here, now." Zoe, who had been waiting patiently by her stand, turns and walks calmly back. "There is a huge mistake," Brielle says, her voice tight. She's trying to keep it low, but the panic is already making it sharp. She opens the folio and stabs her finger at the total. "What is this? This is insane. I'm Savannah Cole's sister. This is a joke, right?" Zoe looks at the bill, then back at Brielle, her face a mask of polite professional concern. "Is there a problem with one of the charges, Miss Cole?" "A problem?" Brielle's voice shatters its restraint and goes up, loud and piercing. The tables nearby, the couple I saw earlier, a group of businessmen, all turn to look. The show has a new act. "The problem, sweetie," Brielle hisses, "is that this bill exists at all. My sister, the owner, invited me here. She told me this was all on the house. She comped this bill." She shoves the folio at Zoe. "Is a goddamn insult." Zoe doesn't flinch. "I'm sure there's a misunderstanding, ma'am. If you'll look at the itemization, we did comp your first 3 rounds of drinks, and the Grand Seafood Tower, as a welcome from Miss Savannah. The total at the bottom reflects your additional orders for the evening." Brielle's jaw drops. She stares at the total, which is clearly printed at the bottom, just as I had instructed. Total, $5,349.50. $5,000? She whispers, the number dying in her throat. Kendall, the sharp-faced friend, leans over. Her eyes go wide. "Holy shit," she breathes. Then her face hardens, and she turns on Zoe. "Are you insane?" Kendall snarls, finding her voice before Brielle can. "Who the hell do you think you are? We are her guests. Do you have any idea who we are? Who she is? We have hundreds of thousands of followers. One bad review from us, one story about how this place tried to scam us, and you are done. This whole restaurant is over. And you'll be back at Starbucks, or wherever they found you." Zoe takes a small, almost imperceptible step back, but her voice remains steady. It is the voice I spent weeks training. "Ma'am, I am just following restaurant policy. The charges are correct. As I said, if you know the owner, I'm sure you can sort it out. You're more than welcome to call her directly to confirm the arrangement." This is the moment, the checkmate move. "Oh, I will call her," Brielle snarls, grabbing her phone. Her confidence is returning, fueled by pure rage. "You're going to be so fired. You're going to be begging me for a job." She unlocks her phone. She goes to her contacts. She taps Savannah, big sis. In my office, in the breast pocket of my blazer, my phone begins to vibrate. I pull it out. The screen glows. Brielle. I stare at it. I watch the name on the screen. I watch the camera feed of my sister. Her face a mask of arrogant fury, her thumb pressed to the screen, waiting for me to pick up, waiting for me to save her, to be the waitress one more time. The phone vibrates. It vibrates again and again. I press the silence button on the side. I do not decline the call. I just let it ring and ring and ring. On the monitor, I watch Brielle's face change. The rage falters, replaced by a flicker of confusion, and then a flash of pure animal panic. I'm not answering. This isn't part of the script. She pulls the phone away from her ear, staring at the screen as it finally goes to voicemail. She must be in a meeting, she stammers, to her friends, to the room. Call her again, Kendall demands. Brielle tries. Again. My phone vibrates. Again. I let it go. Now she's trapped. Her one move, her trump card, I'll call my sister, has failed. Publicly. The tables nearby are not even pretending not to watch now. They are riveted. This is better than theater. Brielle is breathing fast. Her eyes dart around. She is a cornered animal. And then, I see the change. The panic recedes, replaced by a low, feral cunning. She has one more move. You know what? She says, her voice suddenly calm, too calm. Her phone's probably dead. It's fine. I just remembered. She texted me about it earlier. I lean forward in my chair. This is new. This is creative. I watch her fingers fly across the screen. She's not in her call log. She's in her messaging app. I know exactly what she's doing. I see her type. Her friend Kendall is looking over her shoulder, a slow, ugly smile spreading on her face. After a moment, Brielle turns her phone around and shoves it in Zoe's face, the screen blazing. See? She demands, her voice triumphant. Right here. From Savannah, big sis. Hey, Bri. Have the best time tonight. It's all on me. Of course. Order whatever you want. Sis's treat. See? Order whatever you want. Now, take this stupid bill and get it out of my face. From my mezzanine, I want to laugh. I really do. On my high-definition security monitor, I can see the text message perfectly. I can see the misspelled word, whatever. I can see the timestamp, which clearly reads, Sent, 10:14 p.m. It is currently 10:16 p.m. She faked a text message from 2 minutes ago and is trying to pass it off as an invitation from hours earlier. The sheer, idiotic, breathtaking gall of it is almost impressive. Zoe, bless her heart, does not laugh. She just looks at the screen. She does not look at the timestamp. She doesn't need to. Miss Cole, Zoe says, her voice still quiet, still polite. I'm afraid I can't accept a text message as authorization. Our policy, for a comp of this size, requires direct verbal confirmation from Miss Savannah. As you can't seem to reach her, the bill stands. Are you calling me a liar? Brielle shrieks. I am stating the restaurant's policy, Zoe says, her voice like steel. And that is when Brielle finally snaps. The performance is over. This is a shakedown. This is extortion, she yells, standing up so fast her chair almost topples. Her friends, sensing the climax, all stand up with her, a posse of entitled fury. I am not paying 1 cent of this, not one. You can't make me. My sister will handle this. We're leaving. She grabs her clutch. Kendall grabs her purse. They turn, as a group, to walk out, to just walk out. This is the final crucial moment. Excuse me, ma'am. The voice that cuts through the dining room is not Zoe's. It is deep, polite, and carries absolute authority. My head of security, David, has stepped away from his discreet post by the entryway. He is not in a uniform, just a well-cut black suit. He is large, and he is standing directly in their path. He is not touching them. He is simply there, an immovable object. "I'm afraid I can't let you do that," he says, his voice still quiet. But now every person in the restaurant can hear it. Brielle freezes, one foot in front of the other. "Get out of my way," she says. "Ma'am, in the state of Illinois, leaving an establishment without paying for goods or services rendered is commonly referred to as theft of services. I would be legally obligated to notify the Chicago Police Department, who are, fortunately, just on the next block." The air in the restaurant doesn't just get quiet, it stops. It freezes solid. Brielle's face, which had been red with rage, drains of all color. It goes from crimson to a waxy, mottled, terrified pale. She looks at David, she looks at Zoe, who is still standing there, folio in hand, and then she looks around the room, and she finally sees what I have been seeing from my perch. The other guests, the people she was trying to impress, the audience for her grand performance. They are not looking at her with admiration. They are not looking at her with envy. They are all holding up their phones. Every single one of them. Silently. Recording. The sound of my office door opening is a small, quiet click, but in the dead silent dining room, it sounds like a starting pistol. Every phone that was recording, every diner that was watching, snaps their attention from table 17 to the mezzanine staircase. I do not look at them. I do not look at my sister. I look only at the first step, then the next, then the next. I deliberately left my blazer in the office. I am wearing a simple black silk shirt. I do not need armor. I am the owner. I am the house. I smooth my shirt as I take the last step onto the main floor. The heels of my boots make no sound on the plush runner, but my presence is a physical weight. I feel the entire atmosphere of the room, all the tension, bend toward me. I walk slowly, deliberately. I walk past the couple who recognized me, who are now staring, wide-eyed. I walk past the table of businessmen, who look on with a mixture of awe and pity. I do not stop until I am standing at the edge of the velvet booth, at the head of table 17. David, my head of security, gives me a look. I give him a tiny nod. He does not move, but he is no longer the center of attention. I am. Brielle is still standing, frozen, her face a horrific, blotchy mess of white and red. Her friends are motionless, a tableau of cheap champagne and cheaper entitlement. My sister's eyes lock onto mine, and the transformation is instantaneous. The rage and panic vanish, replaced by something I know even better, the manipulative, tear-filled, desperate plea of the family's princess. "Savannah," she gasps, her voice breaking on cue. "It's a performance. It's always a performance." "Oh my God, sis, thank God. This is all a horrible mistake. Tell them. Tell this girl." She gestures at Zoe. "And this man. Tell them to let us go." She reaches for my arm, tries to pull me into the narrative she's already writing in her head. Big sis. Savannah swoops in, scolds the mean staff, and saves her darling baby sister. I take one small step back, just enough for her hand to fall, empty, into the space between us. The rejection is small, precise, and utterly public. I do not raise my voice. I do not need to. The room is so quiet that I can hear the hum of the wine coolers from the bar, 30 feet away. "Hello, Brielle," I say. My voice is calm. It is cold. It is the voice I use with vendors who have failed to deliver. "My name," I say, my gaze sweeping the entire room, "is Savannah Cole. I am the owner of the Copper Lantern." I let the words hang. I am not sis. I am not family. I am the owner. I turn my full attention back to her. "Brielle, Zoe informed me that you claimed you had a text message from me, authorizing a comp for this entire evening. Is that correct?" She flinches. This is not the script. Yes, I do. I I showed her. You did. I agree. I would like to see it, please. It is not a request. Her hand is shaking, but she unlocks her phone. She knows she cannot refuse. She holds it out, her arm trembling. I do not take the phone from her. I simply look down at the screen. I give it a long moment, as if I am reading it for the first time, letting the silence stretch, letting the humiliation build. I see, I say finally, still quiet. I look up at her. The message reads, "Hey Bri, have the best time tonight. It's all on me. Of course, order WATEVER you want. Sis's treat." I spelled out the error. And the timestamp, I continue, says 10:14 p.m. I lift my gaze and look at the antique clock on the far wall. It is currently 10:37 p.m. You appear to have received this invitation 23 minutes ago, after you had already finished your soufflé, and after you were presented with the bill. I look back at her. Her face is ashen. A small question. "Brielle," I say, my voice softening, as if I am genuinely curious. "You and I have been texting each other for nearly 20 years. Have you ever, in all that time, known me to misspell the word whatever?" From the table of businessmen, a single, sharp cough snort of laughter breaks the silence. It is immediately stifled, but it has done its job. The lie is not just exposed, it is ridiculous. Brielle has no answer. She just stares at me, her mouth opening and closing. I turn my attention from her. The cross-examination is not over. I look at her friends, one by one. I start with Kendall, the one in the black dress, the one who insulted Zoe's career. "You," I say, and her eyes snap to mine. "You are Kendall, I believe, my sister's associate. Were you also under the impression this was a collab? Did I, at any point, promise you a free meal in exchange for your exposure?" Kendall, so bold and vicious with my hostess, shrinks. She said, "Brielle told us." "I see," I say, cutting off her excuse. "So, you just assumed my business was your charity. You just followed her in, insulted my staff, and ordered hundreds of dollars of food and wine, expecting that I let the thought hang. I look at Maya, the one who had been hesitant. Her face is crumpled with shame. She is looking at her lap. She knows. "My sister," I say, my voice carrying to every listening ear, "has a problem. She believes that the work I do, the work my entire team does, is not real. She believes it is a buffet, set out for her convenience. She is wrong." I turn back to the table, my voice hardening just a fraction, pulling the focus back. "Let's be perfectly crystal clear about what happened tonight," I say, because I am, above all else, a fair person. I nod to Zoe. "My team was instructed to welcome you. Your first 3 rounds of vintage champagne. They were a gift. That was a comp of $360, the Grand Seafood Tower, which you enjoyed. That was also a gift. That is a $600 item. My team presented you with nearly $1,000 of my hospitality, free of charge, as a welcome." I pause. "But you did not accept welcome. You mistook kindness for weakness. You then proceeded to order 2 tomahawk steaks. You ordered the A5 Wagyu. You ordered the truffle service twice. You ordered a bottle of Petrus that I sell for over $2,000. You made a choice, and then you chose to lie. You chose to try and steal." "We didn't," one of the other friends, Lauren, squeaks, her eyes suddenly filled with tears. We just thought it was free. We only ordered so much because we thought it was free. We didn't know." This is the moment, the final, desperate plea of the willfully ignorant. "You thought it was free," I repeat, my voice flat. "And yet, when presented with the bill for the things you ordered, your first instinct was to help her fake a text message." The girl's face collapses. Checkmate. I look at Zoe, who is standing nearby, still pale, still holding the folio tray. Her eyes are on me, wide with a mixture of terror and awe. I give her a small, brief smile. I turn back to the room. "For the record," I say, my voice ringing with authority. No one on my staff is in any trouble. Zoe, Ramon, David, every single one of them. They all performed their duties perfectly and professionally. They did exactly what they were trained to do: protect the house, follow the procedure, and refuse to be bullied. No one will ever be fired from my restaurant for doing their job. Zoe's shoulders, which I realize were up by her ears, drop in relief. The color starts to return to her face. This, I think, is the real victory. Brielle, seeing that her friends are useless, that her lies are exposed, and that I am immovable, resorts to her final, nuclear option, the one that has worked every single time for her entire life. She pulls out her phone. "I'm calling Mom and Dad," she sobs, her voice a child's wail. They'll handle this. They'll handle you." "Please do," I say, and I cross my arms. Her fingers, slippery with sweat, stab at the screen. She hits the contact. She hits the speakerphone. In the vast, cathedral-like silence of the copper lantern, a tinny ringtone begins to play. It rings once, it rings twice, it rings 3 times. Brielle's face is crumbling. "Pick up, pick up, pick up," she whimpers at the phone. It rings a 4th time. And then, "Hi, you've reached the Coles. We're not available right now, but leave a message." The cheerful, automated, indifferent sound of my mother's voicemail greeting echoes through the room. Brielle stares at the phone. My parents, who are in Florida, are on Eastern Time. It is after midnight. They turned their phones off. They are asleep. The cavalry is not coming. The princess, for the first time in her 26 years of life, has called for a rescue, and no one is answering. That is the sound that finally breaks her. The phone clatters from her hand. The sobs that come out of her are not performative. They are not for an audience. They are the ugly, gasping, broken sounds of a person whose entire universe has just disintegrated. The friends are now in full panic mode. "Brielle, you bitch!" Kendall suddenly snarls, her own facade cracking. "You told us this was a comp. You told us this was handled." I thought..." Brielle weeps. "I can't pay for this." Lauren, the one who cried earlier, wails. "That's my rent. My half of that is my whole month's rent. Brielle, I can't." "I'm not paying for her fucking Patris," the 4th girl says, grabbing her purse. "I barely had any. This is your drama, Brielle." "Ma'am," David's voice cuts in, calm and firm, as the 4th girl tries to bolt. "The bill must be settled. How you divide it is up to you, but it will be settled." For the next 10 minutes, I stand there. I do not move. I watch. I watch the most pathetic, frantic, and vicious negotiation I have ever seen. They argue over who ate what. They pull out their phones, frantically checking their bank balances. Kendall shoves her phone at Zoe. "Fine. Put 500 on this. That's all I have." "My part is 700, Lauren shrieks. "I can't." "If you don't pay, we all get arrested," Maya says, her voice dead. She is the first one to pull out her card and hand it to Zoe without argument. "Just put 1,000 on this. I just want to go." One by one, in a humiliating parade of fractured credit cards, debit cards, and tapping phones, they pay. Zoe runs the transactions, her hands swift and professional, her face blank. It takes 4 different cards, plus a partial cash payment from Kendall's wallet, to cover the full amount. I watch every swipe. I hear every quiet beep of the terminal, every snick of a card being returned, every angry, shaking signature on the slip. I look at the final receipt. Total, $5 to $349.50. Paid in full. I look at Brielle. She is the last one. She is slumped in the booth, her makeup a ruin, her expensive red dress looking like a costume. She is utterly, completely broken. I expected to feel triumphant. I expected to feel a hot rush of victory, of "I told you so." Instead, I just feel old. This wasn't a celebration. This was an exorcism. The price? $5,349.50 wasn't just for a meal. It was the bill for 16 years of being the family's waitress. It was the overdue invoice for every "you were born to serve," for every swallowed humiliation, for every comped bill I paid from my own pocket. And as I watched my sister, my baby sister, weep in the ruins of her own creation, I realized that the cost was just the beginning, the lesson. The lesson had just been served, and it was the end of the little sister telling the big sister what to do. It was the end of that life, forever. The aftermath of that night was not a quiet fade to black. It was the eye of the storm. I spent 3 days in a state of tense, hypervigilant calm. The videos filmed by my diners had, as I expected, flared up on social media, but they were disjointed, filmed from a distance, and mostly showed the aftermath, the crying, the paying. My name and Brielle's were mentioned in a few comments, but without the full context. It was just another entitled influencer story, a brief flash in the digital pan. My team was incredible. Zoe, especially, was transformed. She walked with a new confidence, a steel in her spine. I had shown her I would protect her, and in turn, she was now fiercely protective of the house. I was in my office on Monday, right at the peak of the 1 p.m. lunch rush. The dining room was full, the reassuring clatter of plates and conversation rising from the floor below. I was reviewing the new wine purchasing orders when I heard it. It was not a knock, it was a slam. The heavy glass front door of the restaurant was thrown open with such force that it crashed against the brass stop, the impact vibrating through the floorboards, even up to the mezzanine. The murmur of the lunch crowd died instantly. I didn't need to look at the camera to know that sound, that entitled, furious entrance, was a family signature. I looked at the lobby monitor, and there he was, Richard Cole, my father. He was not the calm, golf-tanned, Florida retiree father. This was a version I hadn't seen in years. His face was a dark, mottled red. His $60 haircut was disheveled. He had his overcoat still on, bunched up in his fists as if he intended to strangle someone with it. Zoe, bless her, was already in his path, her hostess stand between them. "Good afternoon, sir," she said, her voice admirably steady. "Do you have a reservation?" "Get out of my way," my father growled, his voice a low, threatening rumble. He didn't even look at her. He jabbed a finger toward the mezzanine. "I want to see Savannah, now." "Miss Cole is currently in a meeting, sir," Zoe said, using the cover story we had established. "If you'd like to wait in the lounge, I can see if she—" "I'm not waiting in the lounge," he roared, and he slammed his hand down on her pristine host stand. "I am her father. You tell her to get her ass down here, or I am coming up." The entire restaurant was staring. I picked up my intercom, buzzing her earpiece. "Zoe, it's all right," I said, my voice low and calm. "Let him come up. Tell him I'm in my office. Then call David and have him stand by the main stairs. Not for him, for me." "Yes, Savannah," she whispered. I watched on the monitor as Zoe nodded at my father. "Miss Cole's office is at the top of the stairs, sir, last door on the left." I stood up, turned off the music I had playing, and clasped my hands behind my back. I stared at my office door. It burst open 2 seconds later, hitting the wall. "What the hell did you do?" he bellowed. He was inside, in my space, but he didn't seem to notice the room itself. His eyes were only on me, narrowed and burning. "Hello, Dad," I said. "You're disrupting my lunch service." "Disrupting?" He laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "You humiliated your sister. You dragged her name, and my name, through the mud, and you're worried about lunch?" He threw his coat. It missed the chair and landed in a heap on the floor. He didn't care. "You let her be filmed. You let a pack of strangers laugh at her. You took her money. What is wrong with you? Savannah, we are a family. Family protects family. We do not do this to each other." He was pacing, all his rage and shame radiating off him in hot waves. He was in my small office, but he made it feel like a cage. Family protects family, I repeated, my voice quiet. Is that what you call it? Yes, he shouted, jabbing his finger at me. That's what it is. So she made a mistake. She's young. She's got a public image to maintain. You know how hard it is for her. The financial stress she's under. And you exploit that. You set a trap for her. You bring her to your fancy restaurant and then you skin her alive for a meal. It's sick. It's blood money. I see, Atul, I said. I was still calm. I was a rock. So, in your version, I am the villain, and she is the victim. Yes, he said, pounding his fist on my desk. My screen flickered. Of course she is. She is your sister. She is hurt. Savannah. Her friends are abandoning her. Her brand is in trouble. People are calling her a fraud, and that is on you. What people say outside the family doesn't matter. But when your own sister is the one holding the knife, when your own sister is the one who causes the pain, that is your fault. The familiar words, it's your fault. You're the strong one. You should have handled it. You should have sacrificed. I let the silence sit for a moment. Let his words echo and die against the soundproofed walls. Dad, I said, sit down. I'm not sitting down. Sit down. The command in my voice, the same one I used with my staff, was so unlike the daughter he knew that it shocked him into compliance. He looked startled, then sank into the guest chair, his anger momentarily deflated by confusion. I turned to my wall of monitors. I pressed a button. The main screen, the one I used for presentations, lit up. You seem to have a very clear narrative of what happened Friday night, I said. Brielle's narrative. I assume. I'd like to show you mine. I find it's always helpful to have all the facts. I hit play. I had edited a file. It was a greatest hits of the evening. I opened with the lobby feed. Audio on. He watched Zoe politely tell Brielle we were full. He watched Brielle loudly demand a table, calling herself family. See, he said, pointing. She's just being assertive. She's proud of you. Then I played the clip of Kendall, her voice sharp and clear, insulting Zoe's career. Is this the peak of your whole career? My father shifted in his chair. He didn't like that. It was unseemly. Then I played the clip of Brielle at the table, on her live stream. My sister is spoiling us. She gave us the special menu, the one with no prices. This is when you know you've made it. She's just excited, my father mumbled, but his conviction was wavering. She's bragging about you, Savannah. That's a good thing. Wait for it, I said. Then I played the audio clip, pulled from the feed, of her conversation with her friends. The audio where she called my staff the help. The audio where she said, influencers aren't supposed to pay. It's like symbiosis. My father's face went very still. The red color was draining. She was probably just kidding, Savannah, he stammered. You know, it's just talk, locker room talk. Is this? I asked. I played the final clip, the one I had saved, the one that made my blood cold. The feed from table 12, audio crystal clear, Zoe, standing her ground, and Brielle, her face a mask of cunning, her fingers flying on her phone. I zoomed in on the phone screen as she typed. I zoomed in on the timestamp. I showed her shoving the phone in Zoe's face, her voice triumphant. See? From Savannah, big sis. Order whatever you want. I stopped the video. My father was silent. He was staring at the screen, at the faked, misspelled text. He was not looking at me. She faked a text message, he said. His voice was no longer a roar. It was a flat, dead whisper. She lied. She tried to steal. He said the word, the one I had used. It sounded different coming from him. It sounded broken. Yes, I said. She did. His anger was gone, replaced by a deep, hollow shame. He looked old. He looked like my grandfather, after the diner had failed. But the bill, he said, grasping. Savannah, $5,000. It's cruel. To do that to your own, it's cruel. It's not cruel, Dad, I said, my voice as flat as his. It's math. It is the literal, itemized price of her choices. I comped her nearly $1,000. The rest, the other 4,000 and change, was what they ordered. The Petrus, the Wagyu, the truffles, the consequences. She can't afford that, he burst out, the anger returning. But this time it was different. It was the desperate anger of a man who knows he's lost the argument. She called me, hysterical. She said you bankrupted her. Yes, I said. I know. And here, I played my final card, the one I had been holding, the twist. I turned to my desk. I pulled a single piece of paper from my printer tray. I hadn't even known I had this power until I had my bank confirm the transactions yesterday. She didn't pay for all of it. Dad, I said. Her friend's cards covered most of it, but Brielle's share, her personal share of the bill, came to $2,150. I slid the piece of paper across the desk. It was a temporary bank statement. From his bank. She paid for it, I said. With this, her special debit card, the one, I believe, that you co-signed for, the one you set up as an emergency account, the one you are, ultimately, the guarantor for. He looked at the paper. He didn't pick it up. He just read the line item. $2,150. The Copper Lantern. Chicago. E.L. I see, I said, that the starting balance on this account was $3,000, which means, after my restaurant charged her, she had $850 left. I tapped the paper. So, my question, Dad, is why is this account now overdrawn by $700? And what are these other charges, from the last 2 months, that you clearly never saw? The ones from Gucci online? The ones from Wynn, Las Vegas? The ones for LAX first-class upgrade? His face. It was not anger. It was not shame. It was a cold, sick, dawning horror. He had come in here to yell at me about my bill for $5,349.50, and he had just discovered that his princess had been bleeding him dry, in secret, for months. My bill wasn't the attack. My bill was just the one that finally made the other alarms go off. The one that finally drained the account so low that the bank had to call him. The anger didn't just transfer to Brielle. It transferred to himself. He saw it. He saw the decades of enablement, of she's the princess, of you're the strong one. He saw the monster he had helped me create. Oh, God, he whispered. He wasn't talking to me. He put his head in his hands. I let him sit there for a full minute. I let him absorb the total, complete, and crushing weight of his own failure. Finally, I spoke. Do you see, Dad? I said, and the Vietnamese words just came out. It was what Grandma would have said. Do you see, Dad? I didn't do this to her. I didn't do this to you. I just stopped being the person who cleaned up the mess. I just did the one thing you and Mom never, ever dared to do. He looked up at me, his eyes defeated. What's that? I said enough. I handed her the check. He was quiet for a long, long time. He looked at the statement. He looked at the blank, dark monitor. I have been so wrong, he said. The words were heavy, like stones he was pulling from his own chest. About you, about her, about all of it. I've been wrong for so long, Savannah. It was the first time in my 32 years he had ever admitted fault to me. It didn't feel like a victory. It just felt heavy. But, Savannah, he said, his voice pleading now, a new, terrifying dynamic. He was pleading with me. The videos, the things people are saying. You're not going to, you wouldn't, this video. He gestured to my monitor. The fake text. You wouldn't, Post that. Would you? You wouldn't destroy her. She's still your sister. There it is. I thought, the ask. Even in his defeat, he's still trying to protect the family. I am not going to post anything, I said, my voice cold. I am not an influencer. I am a businesswoman, and this is a family matter. I will not make it public. He sagged in relief. Thank you. Oh God, Savannah, thank you. But, I said, and he tensed again. I have 2 conditions, 2 non-negotiable terms. Anything. 1. The bill stands, all of it, the $5,349.50. It is paid. There will be no refunds, no chargebacks, no, let's just forget about it. It is done. And you will handle her $700 overdraft, and you will shut down that account. You will stop the bleeding. He nodded, his face grim. Done. 2, I said, and this was the harder one. I don't want an emoji. I don't want a, hey you okay text. I require a real apology. From her, to me, and more importantly, to Zoe, the hostess she insulted. She will come back to this restaurant, on her own, and she will apologize to my staff for her behavior, in person, or this. I tapped the monitor. Stays in my files, for a time when I might need it. He looked like I had punched him. Savannah? To the staff? That's too much. No, Dad, I said, standing up, my signal that this meeting was over. It's the bare minimum. It's called respect. The thing you and Mom forgot to teach her. The thing Grandpa taught me. I walked to the door and opened it. David was standing right outside. Dad, I said, lunch service is almost over, but you can't leave on an empty stomach. I'll have the kitchen make you a sandwich. On the house. My father left with the sandwich. He didn't eat it. He just took the bag, his face gray and drawn, and walked out of my restaurant like a man who had lost his way. In the weeks that followed, the storm passed. The ripples, however, continued to spread, lapping against my shore in unexpected ways. The first and most obvious change was the silence. Out of a professional curiosity I could not quite suppress, I would check Brielle's social media accounts. Before the incident, her feed was a relentless, high-volume assault of filtered images, her laughing with brunch, her posing in gifted clothing, her pouting in the back of an Uber, all tagged with a dozen blessed and partner hashtags. Now her feed was a ghost town. She who had posted 5 or 6 times a day was now posting once every 3 or 4. The posts were low effort, recycled throwback photos of her at the beach, with vague captions like, reflecting, or taking time for me. The manic, performative joy was gone, replaced by a sullen, curated victimhood. The real story, however, was in the tags. I clicked on a post from a month ago, one where she was promoting a boutique hotel's getaway package. The brand, which had been tagged, was no longer linked. I checked another. A post for a high-end skincare line. The sponsored by text had been quietly edited out. The brands were not making a statement. They were just unclicking. They were silently, surgically, removing their association. Her influence was evaporating. Then, about 2 weeks after my father's visit, an email I had been half expecting arrived in my personal inbox. It was from a name I barely recognized. Maya. The friend from that night. The one who had looked ashamed. The subject line was simple. I'm sorry. Dear Savannah, you don't know me, but I was at your restaurant with Brielle. I'm writing this because I haven't been able to sleep. I just want to say I am so sorry for what happened. And for my part in it, I knew. I had a feeling all night that something was wrong, but I was too weak to say anything, and I let myself get carried away. I am ashamed that I didn't speak up, especially when Kendall was so horrible to your hostess. I wanted you to know that I paid my share, $1,000, which I really couldn't afford, and I have blocked Brielle on everything. The reason I'm really writing is, I need you to know that this was not a one-time mistake for her. She has a pattern. This is going to sound crazy, but she pulled a smaller version of this at a steakhouse in Miami last year. She told us all she had a brand deal with them, and when the bill came, she created a massive, hysterical scene about the rude server until the manager comped it just to get her to leave. She called it strategic complaining. And she told me once that she got her apartment lease by telling the landlord her famous sister, you, was co-signing, and that you would send the check later when she was late on rent. She used your name to book a hotel room I stayed in with her once, and I'm pretty sure she just walked out without paying the minibar charges. I know this is none of my business, but I felt like you deserved to know that you weren't crazy. You weren't being cruel. You were just the first person to finally hand her the check. I will never forget the look on your face. It was honestly incredible. I'm sorry to bother you. Good luck. Maya. I read the email 3 times. She used my name to secure her apartment. She used my name to book hotels. The coldness I had felt that night returned, but it was sharper now. The scale of her deception, the sheer parasitic use of me, was deeper than I had ever imagined. I hadn't just been her family waitress. I had been her unwilling, unknowing financial guarantor. I had been her identity. I closed the email. I did not reply. Maya had paid her share. Her debt was settled. The next day, I called another all-staff meeting. I stood in the same spot as I had before, in the center of the dining room. I just want to thank all of you, I said, my voice clear and strong, for your professionalism over the past few weeks. I know it has been tense. You, all of you. I looked from Zoe to Luca, to David to Ramon. Are the heart of this restaurant. You are the reason it works. What happened at table 17 was a failure of family, not a failure of service. I want to make a new promise to you. The old policy was that I would protect you from my family. The new policy is simpler. I took a breath. I have handled my family. It will not happen again. I will never put any of you in that position again. And I want to be clear. I paused, finding the words. Here, at the Copper Lantern, your families are not allowed to do what my family did to me. You are professionals, but you are also people. Your deadbeat cousin, your entitled uncle. They do not get a free pass here, ever. We are a business, not a halfway house for bad behavior. Does everyone understand? There was a different kind of yes this time. It wasn't just relieved, it was proud. It was a sound of ownership. After the meeting, I took the original, itemized, nearly 4-foot-long receipt for table 17, the one Zoe had printed, the one that totaled $5,349.50. I had it professionally mounted and framed in a simple, severe black frame. I did not hang it in the dining room. I did not hang it by the host stand. That would be a trophy. That would be gloating. I hung it on the wall of my office, right next to my grandfather's framed note. There is no low work, only people who don't know respect. It is not a trophy. It is a reminder. It is an internal document. It is the most expensive, most valuable lesson I have ever purchased. It is the physical proof that my no has value. It is the line. My parents began to call again. Their newfound regularity was almost comical, as if they were trying to make up for decades of casual neglect. But the calls were hollow. We talked about the weather in Florida. We talked about my new wine shipment. We talked about everything except the one thing we were all thinking about. Brielle's name was never mentioned. She was a black hole, her presence defined only by the careful, wide orbit my parents and I now navigated around her. Until one night, my mother broke. It's just, I worry about her. Savannah, she said, her voice small, after a long, awkward silence. She's not herself. She sounds so, poor thing. She sounds so lost. The old me, the waitress, would have softened. The old me would have said, I know, Mom, it's okay. The new me just held the phone, my gaze resting on the framed receipt in the twilight of my office. I don't, Mom, I said, my voice kind, but firm. I don't feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for Maya. The girl who had to pay $1,000 of her own money. I feel sorry for Kendall, who is apparently out her rent money. I feel sorry for the landlord Brielle has been lying to for a year. I feel sorry for all the people she dragged into her mess. She is not the victim here. She's just, for the first time, experiencing consequences. My mother was silent. After a moment, she said, "Oh, well, the weather here is supposed to be lovely tomorrow." The subject was changed. The boundary had held. Life in the restaurant became, for the first time, clean. The change was palpable. My staff was happier. The service was tighter. And my newfound ability to say no was, it turned out, addictive. "Hi, I'm a small-time food reviewer. I'd love to review your restaurant for my blog. I was hoping you could comp my meal and a +1. Thank you so much for your interest. We are not offering comped meals at this time, but we would be thrilled to have you book a reservation through our standard system. We stand by our service and are confident you'll have a wonderful experience." "Hey, Savannah, it's Mark, your father's old college buddy? I'm in town. Was hoping I could swing by for a free steak, for old time's sake." "Mark, it's great to hear from you. I can't offer a comp, but I can get you a reservation for 8 p.m. if you're quick. It would be wonderful to see you. You'll have to tell me how Dad was in college." The result? Mark came. He paid. He loved it. And he left a 30% tip. My restaurant, free from the drag of favors, was suddenly more profitable. The reputation we were gaining wasn't just for our food. It was for our professionalism. We were a serious place. We had no time for nonsense. The strangest, most darkly amusing moment came last week. I was at the bar, tasting a new Cabernet with my sommelier. A group of women at a nearby table were deep in conversation. "No, I heard it from Sarah," one of them said, leaning in. "This influencer, some blonde girl with a B name, went into, I think it was this restaurant, actually, and tried to get a huge meal for free. She and her friends ordered, like, thousands of dollars of food, and then tried to just walk out." "No!" another one gasped. "Yes, and the owner, who is apparently a total badass, locked the doors and made them pay. She, arrested them at the table. My God, can you imagine the humiliation?" I sipped my Cabernet. It was excellent, a little bitter on the finish, but with a strong, solid backbone. I felt a strange, hollow pang. It was a story now, a piece of city gossip. My sister's shame, my family's private drama, was now an anecdote for strangers to enjoy over a glass of wine. It was a bitter, deeply weird feeling. But the weirdest was yet to come. This morning, an email landed in the restaurant's general info at account. It was not from a diner. It was from a corporate law firm. Verification of business expense. Brielle Cole, brand name. Sportswear. To whom it may concern. We represent brand name. Our client, Ms. Brielle Cole, has submitted a business expense reimbursement form for a marketing and promotion dinner held at your establishment on date of the incident. The amount submitted is $5,349.50. Ms. Cole claims this was an approved marketing event to promote both your restaurant and our brand. We are required to perform due diligence. Could you please confirm that this was, in fact, an approved, comped marketing collaboration? Your prompt reply to verify this invoice is appreciated. I stared at the screen. After everything. She tried to get the brand to pay for it. She rebranded her public humiliation as a marketing dinner and sent them the receipt. My receipt, as an invoice. The sheer, magnificent, unbreakable audacity of it. She wasn't just a parasite. She was a phoenix, rising from the ashes of her own shame, convinced she could con the world into paying for the fire. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. I wanted to call my father and read it to him over the phone. Instead, I closed my laptop. I did not engage. I did not confirm or deny. I would not be a witness in her new con. This was her story, her lie, and she would have to see it through, or fail, on her own. I was done. I stood up and looked out the mezzanine window, down at the bustling lunch service, down at the front door. where a new group of guests was walking in. A new group of people who had made a reservation, who were here to pay for a service, who were here to respect the work. My grandfather's note, my framed bill. The old question still hung in the air. Did I want to fix this? Did I still want a sister? And for the first time, I felt the small, cold, terrifyingly liberating thought form in my head. I don't know, and I don't care. The lesson of $5,349.50, it wasn't for her. It was for me, and it was, finally, over. I thought the silence was the end. I thought the email from the law firm, which I ignored, was the final, pathetic punchline. I had framed the bill. I had made my peace. I was ready to move on, to run my restaurant, and to let the black hole of my family collapse in on itself, far away from me. I was wrong. The silence, it turned D out, was not an ending. It was an intermission. The text came late one night, a Tuesday. I was in my office, closing out the books for the month. It was nearly 1 a.m. My phone, which had been blissfully quiet, lit up on the desk. It was a group message from my mother. The recipients were me, Dad, Brielle. My heart hammered against my ribs. A single, hard punch. She had put us all in the same digital room. The message was brief, and its faux casual tone was more threatening than an open declaration of war. This Sunday, we are all going to have dinner together as a family. We need to talk this out. For goodness sake, enough is enough. Savannah, you can pick the place. 7 p.m. I stared at the text. We need to talk this out. Enough is enough. The language was clear. This was not a request. It was a summons. And the enough is enough was not aimed at Brielle's behavior. It was aimed at the situation. It was aimed at the discomfort. It was aimed at me, for having the audacity to create this discomfort in the first place. My first visceral instinct was to throw the phone against the wall, to type back a simple, "No. No. I will not be attending my own emotional execution. No. I am done being the family's problem when I am, in fact, the only one who ever tried to be the solution." I picked up the phone to type just that, but as I held it, my thumb hovering over the F for fuck no, my eyes landed on the framed receipt from my grandfather. There is no low work, only people who don't know respect. And I remembered something else he said to me, long ago, when I was complaining about a fight my parents were having. I was a teenager, and I wanted to just hide in my room. He found me. "You don't throw family away, Savannah," he'd said, polishing a glass. "That's not what we do, but you don't let them set you on fire to keep themselves warm, either. You keep family, but you keep them with boundaries. You keep them with high, strong fences. That's how you keep them at all. You keep them with fences." My no was a fence, but maybe a yes could be a fortress. My fingers, which had been shaking with anger, were suddenly very still. I knew what I had to do. I would not hide. I would not be dragged to some neutral third-party restaurant, some steakhouse where they could set the terms. I would not go to their battlefield. I would make them come back to mine. I replied to the group text. My message was even shorter than hers. "The Copper Lantern, Sunday at 7 p.m. I will have a table ready for you." My mother replied almost instantly, "Wonderful, see? This is how family should be. Love you both." Brielle said nothing. I had 4 days. I began to prepare as if I were planning a state dinner or a hostile takeover. My first call was not to my chef. It was to Mr. Harrington. Arthur Harrington had been my grandparents' lawyer. He was a quiet, sharp, old-school gentleman who had executed their will, navigated the diner's probate, and was one of the few people on earth who knew the full story of what I had inherited and what I had built. I met him at his club, a dark, wood-paneled place that smelled like old books and furniture polish. "Savannah," he said, after signaling for tea, "it is good to see you, though your call sounded specific." I didn't waste time. "Arthur, I'm here for a legal clarification. I need to know my precise standing on an incident that occurred at my restaurant a few weeks ago." I told him everything. I left out no detail. The threats to Zoe, the priceless menu, the faked text message, the attempted dine and dash, the security footage. I told him about the $5,349.50 bill. He listened, his fingers steepled, his face impassive. When I was finished, he was quiet for a long time. "Well," he said finally, taking a sip of tea, "first, let me say that what you described, attempting to leave without paying, after using fraudulent means to incur the debt, is not a family dispute. It is, by its very definition, theft, and may, given the faked text message, arguably fraud." So, You could have had her arrested on the spot, he said simply. The fact that you had her card on file from the VIP policy was your saving grace. It allowed you to treat it as a payment dispute rather than a crime in progress. But make no mistake, Savannah, what your sister did was illegal. He leaned forward. And what you did, by merely insisting they pay the bill they willingly incurred, was not cruel. It was not even firm. From a legal standpoint, it was extraordinarily merciful. Extraordinarily merciful. I felt a spine I didn't even know was wavering straighten into pure steel. The last, lingering shred of guilt, the "did I go too far?" evaporated. I had not been the villain. I had been the victim who finally fought back, and while, according to the law, I had done it with one hand tied behind my back. "Thank you, Arthur," I said. "That is all I needed to know." My next step was to prepare the evidence. This was not a family dinner. This was a hearing, and I would be the prosecutor, witness, and judge. I went back to my office. I printed everything. I printed the screenshots of Brielle's all-inclusive Instagram story, the one that proved her intent to get a free meal. I printed a high-resolution still from the security footage, zoomed in on her phone, showing the faked text message and the timestamp. I printed the final, itemized bill, but I did it in a new way. I made 2 columns. Column 1, items gifted by house, with the total $960,000. Column 2, items ordered by guest, with the total $5,349.50. Finally, I printed a single, clean sheet of paper. On it, I typed out the official employee code of conduct for the Copper Lantern, the one that every staff member signs. I highlighted one line. All employees of the Copper Lantern will be treated with professional respect, and management will not tolerate abuse or harassment from any guest, regardless of their social or personal standing. I put these 4 documents into a slim black folder. I was ready for the reconciliation. I was ready for the ambush. What I was not ready for was the text I received on Saturday night, the night before the dinner. It was from Maya. "Hey, Savannah, this is going to sound weird, and I'm probably overstepping, but I heard something. I'm still in a group chat with Lauren, the other girl from that night, and she was just talking about Brielle. I don't know if you care, but you should know what Brielle is telling people. She's telling everyone that you set this family reconciliation dinner up." I stopped breathing. "What?" "She's telling her friends that she's winning. She said that you finally caved and that you're desperate to have your sister back. She said that your dad read you the riot act and that you were forced to apologize. She said the dinner tomorrow is," and this is a direct quote, "the big finale, where Savannah apologizes for being a jealous bitch and we finally talk about her paying me back for the emotional distress. I'm just telling you this because it sounds like you're walking into a trap, and she's telling people your mom and dad are backing her play. I'm so sorry. Please don't tell anyone I told you." I dropped the phone on my desk. It was an ambush, but I had gotten the battle plan wrong. I had been preparing for a "let's all yell at Savannah for being mean" ambush. I had not been preparing for a "let's all watch Savannah apologize to Brielle" ambush. My mother's text. "See? This is how family should be." She wasn't happy I was coming. She was happy I was caving. My father's silence. He wasn't ashamed. He was complicit. He had made a deal. He had told them I wouldn't post the video, and in their twisted minds, that meant I had surrendered. This wasn't a reconciliation, this was a subjugation. They were coming into my house, to my table, to watch me bend the knee, to force me to forgive the debt, which probably meant refunding the money, and apologize. To put the waitress back in her place. The coldness that came over me was absolute. The rage was so pure, so clean. It was like ice. My first thought was to cancel. Something has come up. The restaurant is closed. But no, that was hiding. That was what they wanted. They wanted me to be afraid. I would not be afraid. I would not hide. I would simply change the terms of engagement. I picked up my phone. I made 2 calls. The first was to my front-of-house manager. "Liam," I said, "a small change for tomorrow. My family will be dining here at 7 p.m. They are to be seated at table 41, a small, private, but very public booth in the main dining room, not a hidden corner. There will be no special service. They will order from the standard menu, and most importantly, no check will be opened, and no order will be fired to the kitchen until a physical credit card is taken from them, swiped, and pre-authorized. No one, not even me, charges a single glass of water to the house tomorrow. Is that clear?" "Crystal, Savannah," he said, the respect in his voice warming me. My second call was a text message to Maya. "Maya, thank you for this. You have no idea what you've done. I have a strange and very last-minute favor to ask you. Would you be willing to come to the Copper Lantern tomorrow night? Not at 7, but at, say, 7:45? I will have a table for you at the bar. I might need a witness. I can't promise what will happen, but I will pay for your time, your meal, and your transportation. All I need is for you to be there, in the room." Her reply came back in less than 30 seconds. "I'll be there, and I don't want your money. I want to see this." I put the phone down. I put my black folder into my briefcase. I had my evidence. I had my staff. And now, I had my surprise witness. I had one more thing to do. That night, long after the last guest had left and the staff had gone home, I stood alone in the center of my dining room. The lights were low, just the dim golden glow from the bar and the streetlights outside. The room was silent. I walked over to table 17, the stage of the original crime. I looked at the plush velvet, now clean. I looked at the spot where Brielle had wept. I looked at the spot where I had stood and delivered the sentence. I thought about the next night. I thought about my mother's hopeful, manipulative smile, my father's guilty, defeated silence, and Brielle's smug, triumphant, expectant face, waiting for her apology, waiting for me to serve her, one last time. Was I strong enough? Was I strong enough to do it again? To burn the whole bridge, not just part of it? To choose my work, my self-respect, my life over the blood in my veins? I stood there for a long time, in the dark, in the quiet, a general alone on her battlefield, the night before the final, bloody charge. And I wondered, would I have the courage to go all the way? Or would the word family, that ancient, heavy weapon, finally be the one that made me put down my sword? Sunday, 7 p.m. 7. The restaurant was in the full swing of its elegant, controlled dinner service. I had not, as my mother might have hoped, closed the restaurant for this. I had not given them a private room. I had given them table 41, a prominent booth in the center of the room, surrounded by other diners. They would be just another table. My staff had been given their orders. I was not in my office. I was on the floor, touching tables, speaking with guests, a visible, present owner. I wanted them to see me not as a sister or a daughter, but as a commander in her element. At 7:05, they walked in. The glow of the room didn't dim, but the air around me grew thin. My mother was first, her face a mask of strained, brittle cheerfulness, her eyes darting around as if looking for reporters. My father was next, his face a silent, gray slab of granite, He would not meet my eye. And then, Brielle. She was a masterpiece. She was dressed down in a simple beige cashmere sweater. Her makeup was minimal, her blonde hair pulled back in a simple, humble ponytail. She looked pale. She looked fragile. She looked, to anyone who didn't know her, like a victim, the misunderstood, gentle soul of the family. She was playing the part to perfection. Zoe, who was not at the host stand, I had given her the night off, was replaced by Liam, my floor manager. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Cole. Miss Cole," he said, his voice impeccably neutral. "Miss Savannah has your table ready." "Oh, thank you. Liam," my mother gushed, as if he were an old friend. "Right this way," he said, "and as per Miss Savannah's new policy for all personal reservations, I'll just need a credit card to open the check for the evening." My mother's smile froze. My father tensed. Brielle just looked at the floor. The picture of humility. A card?" my mother stammered. "But, Savannah, it's just a formality." "Mom," I said, walking up, my own voice light and airy. "New policy. No one is exempt, not even me." I smiled at her. "Dad, your card will be fine." My father, trapped, his face darkening with a humiliation he couldn't voice, slowly, angrily, pulled his wallet from his jacket. He handed his card to Liam. "Thank you, sir," Liam said. He swiped it, handed it back, and said, "Your table is ready. Your server will be with you shortly." The trap had closed. They were now guests. They were now customers. And they were paying for their own damnation. I let them settle. I let them order. They kept it simple. Chicken, salmon. No one dared order a steak. They drank water. The first 30 minutes of the dinner were the most excruciatingly silent, awkward meal I have ever witnessed. Finally, as the main course plates were being cleared, my mother set her napkin down. Her smile was gone. Her face was set. It was time. "Well," she began, her voice low and tight, "this has been a thing, and I'm glad we are all here, as a family, to finally put this ugliness to bed." She looked at me, her eyes hard. "Savannah, what is done, but I hope you understand that money, a bill, is just paper. It is nothing compared to blood. It is nothing compared to the bonds of family, and you do not, let a single, silly little misunderstanding like a dinner bill break those bonds. That is not how we were raised." I just sipped my water. I did not speak. I let her continue. "So," she said, I think we are all ready to hear it." Brielle, on cue, looked up, her eyes, which had been downcast, filled with tears. Brielle whispered, her voice cracking. I can't believe it came to this. I thought you invited me. Savannah, I was so excited to show my friends. I was bragging about you." A single perfect tear rolled down her cheek. I never saw a price. I thought it was a gift. And then your staff." She choked on the word. "They were so cold. They didn't understand. They trapped me. They forced me to pay a bill I couldn't. It was so much." She broke down, covering her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking in a perfectly rehearsed sob. I've been so humiliated," she wept. They made me. I'm ruined, Savannah, all because of a misunderstanding." My mother put her arm around Brielle, pulling her close. Shh, baby. It's okay. We're going to fix it. Savannah is going to fix it." My mother looked at me. My father looked at me. Their faces were aligned. The trap was sprung. This was it. This was the apology part of the program. I was supposed to melt, to apologize, to say it was my fault, and to, as Maya's text had predicted, talk about paying her back. I let the silence sit. I let Brielle's sobs be the only sound at the table, a stark contrast to the happy chatter of the other diners around us. "Are you finished?" I asked, my voice quiet. Brielle's sobs hitched. My mother's eyes narrowed. Is that the full performance?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Was that the version you were planning?" Because it was good, the humble dress, the single tear. It was a very strong open, a solid 7 out of 10. "Savannah," my father's voice was a low growl. "Don't you dare talk to your sister that way," my mother hissed. "I'm not," I said, my voice still calm. "I am just so disappointed. I really thought you would come with something better." I reached down to my briefcase, which was sitting by my feet. I pulled out the slim black folder. I placed it on the table with a soft, definitive thud. "You've all presented your version of the night," I said, my voice dropping into the cold, clear register of an owner. "Now, I'd like to present mine. I found that, in business, it's always best to work from primary source documents. Don't you agree?" I opened the folder. My mother, father, and sister stared at it like it was a snake. "Document A," I said, sliding the first paper to the center of the table. "This is a screenshot from your own Instagram, Brielle, posted 3 days before your visit. This is the one where you announced to your followers that you were having an all-inclusive night. Courtesy of Big Sis, which is, in legal terms, intent. You had no invitation. You had a plan. You were planning to steal." I was just," Brielle stammered. "Document B," I said, sliding the next one over. "This one is my favorite. It's a still, a high-definition still, from my security camera. The one with audio. This is you, Brielle, faking a text message. And this," I tapped the timestamp, "is the proof. The invitation you misunderstood was sent by you to yourself 2 minutes after the bill arrived. This is not a misunderstanding. This is fraud." My mother's face went white. My father stopped breathing. "And finally," I said, "Document C, a itemized breakdown. This column, in green, is the $960 of food and champagne I gifted you. This column, in red, is the $5,349.50 worth of Petrus, Wagyu, and truffles you ordered after you received your welcome gift. This is not a bill. This is a receipt. For your own greed." I closed the folder. "So," I said, leaning back, "that is my version, the one with facts. Do you have any notes?" My mother was speechless. She just looked at Brielle, her face a mask of dawning, sick horror. "Brielle," she whispered, "is this, did you lie?" For the first time in her life, the blame, the hot, searing spotlight of parental disappointment was not on me. It was, in its entirety, on the princess. Brielle was falling apart. Dad." "Don't," my father said, his voice a low rasp. "Just don't." And then I played my first twist. "You know," I said, as if a thought had just occurred to me, "you said my staff was the problem, that they misunderstood. It's so lucky. One of your friends, Maya, I believe, she's actually here tonight." I raised my hand, and at the bar, Maya, who had been sitting, waiting, stood up. She walked over, her face pale but resolute. "Maya," I said, "my family seems to be under the impression that the night of the bill was a one-time misunderstanding. I believe you told me something different?" My parents stared at her. Brielle looked like she had seen a ghost. "Mrs. Cole," Maya said, her voice shaking but clear. I'm sorry, but Brielle, she does this. She did it in Miami. She told us all it was a brand deal and then made a scene to get the meal for free. She told me she used Savannah's name to get her apartment, that she was late on rent and told the landlord my rich sister would pay." You traitor!" Brielle shrieked, lunging. But my father's hand on her arm, like a band of steel, stopped her. "Thank you, Maya," I said. "That's all." Maya nodded and walked away, back to the bar. My mother's hand was at her throat. She used my name," I heard her whisper. But it wasn't my name she was thinking of. It was her own, the family name. "It's a serious matter," a deep voice said. I turned, feigning surprise. "Arthur? Mr. Harrington? I didn't realize you were dining here." Mr. Harrington, my grandparents' lawyer, stood by our table, a napkin in his hand. He looked, for all the world, like a concerned, older diner, drawn in by the commotion. "I couldn't help but overhear," he said, his eyes landing on my father, who instantly looked terrified. "Richard, ma'am." "Arthur, this is a private family matter." My father stammered. "Is it?" Harrington asked, his voice mild. "Because from what I've heard, it sounds like a legal matter. It sounds like a case of theft by deception, wire fraud. Oh, and possibly identity fraud, if these claims about the landlord are true." He looked at me. "Savannah, you and I both know you were, well, as I said before, extraordinarily merciful." He turned back to my parents. "You seem to be under the impression that family is some kind of magic word that erases all consequence. I am here to tell you, as a friend of this family, and as an officer of the court, that it is not, there is no law, anywhere, that obligates a business owner, that obligates Savannah, to bankroll the illegal, foolish, or careless actions of her relatives. What she did was not breaking the family, it was enforcing the law, and she did it far more kindly than the Chicago Police Department would have." He nodded to me. "Savannah, good evening," and he walked away. The silence at the table was no longer awkward. It was a tomb. Brielle was cornered. She had no lies left, no allies, no saviors. And so she finally broke. "Fine!" she screamed, the word tearing out of her, raw and ugly. "Fine! I faked the text. I lied to Dad about the card. I bragged. I did it all. Fine. But so what?" She was panting, her face a mess of real tears now, the ugly, desperate kind. "So what, Savannah? You won. You got your money. You have all this." She gestured wildly around the restaurant, at my restaurant. "You're rich. You can afford it. It was $5,000. It's nothing to you. So why did you have to do that to me? Why did you have to ruin me over nothing?" It was her last bullet, the one that had worked for 26 years. "You have more, so you owe me." I looked at her. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel pity. I just felt done. "It's not that I can afford it, Brielle," I said, my voice very soft. "It's that you have always believed, truly, in your bones, that everyone else was born to pay for you, that I was born to pay for you, that I was born to serve." I pulled the slim, black-framed document from my briefcase, the framed receipt. I placed it on the table in front of her. 5x349.50. "This," I said, "is not the price of a dinner. This is the final, itemized bill. For 20 years of my silence. For every time I washed your dish. For every time I covered your shift. For every bill I paid. For every lie I swallowed. This is what it costs." I leaned in. "And now we're going to talk about how you are going to pay me back." Pay you back?" my mother gasped. "Savannah, she paid the bill. Her friends paid." "Oh, no," I said. "They paid for the food. They didn't pay for the lesson. That has a separate cost. But because I am family, I'm going to give her a chance to work it off." I looked at Brielle. "You want to fix this, Brielle? You want a chance? Fine. You have 2 options, and you will choose one, tonight, right here. Option 1, you do nothing. You go back to Florida. You try to rebuild your brand, and you live with the fact that I have this. I tapped the folder. And this, I tapped the receipt. And you will hope that the next brand that wants to verify an invoice doesn't get me on a bad day. You can take your chances, and you will never, ever set foot in my restaurant or my life again. We are done. Option 2, I said. You work, you want to pay it off, you pay it off. My grandfather's way, you will work, here, at the Copper Lantern, for as long as it takes to earn, at minimum wage, the full $5,349.50, and you will not be a hostess, you will not be a server, you will start in the dish pit, where I started, and Zoe and Luca. They will be your managers, and they will have my full authority to train you or to fire you. You will show up on time. You will do the work, and you will learn what it means to respect the plate. Work? My mother shrieked. As a waitress? A dishwasher? You can't do that to your sister. Richard, say something. My father, who had been silent, finally looked up. He looked at me, at the folder, at the lawyer across the room, at his weeping, broken, exposed youngest child. And then he looked at me, and for the first time, he saw me. He saw the owner. Savannah, he said, his voice a rasp. You have given her a much fairer choice than she has ever given you. That was it. The last support beam, gone. Brielle just collapsed. The sobs were not pretty. They were the raw, ugly, howling sounds of a person who had truly, finally hit the bottom. She had nothing left. No lies, no protectors, no money, no future. She looked at me, her eyes swollen and red, and through the sobs, she whispered one broken, tiny word. I'll work. I did not hug her. I did not comfort her. I did not say, it's okay. I simply nodded. I reached back into my briefcase. I pulled out a single, last sheet of paper. It was a standard, State of Illinois, at-will employment agreement, with the job title line, left blank. I pushed it, and a pen, across the table. Sign, I said, and with a shaking hand that I had to steady, she did. My family left shortly after. My mother didn't say goodbye. My father just put a hand on my shoulder, a heavy, defeated weight, and then he was gone. Brielle was just a ghost, following them. I stood at the front window of my restaurant, long after they had gone, in the dark, just as I had the night before. But I was not empty-handed. In my hand, I held a single piece of paper, with a shaky, tear-stained signature at the bottom. The lesson of $5,349.50 wasn't over. Not really. But for the first time in my life, the scales were not just balanced. They had tipped. The princess was, well, we would see. The copper lanterns on the awning outside cast a warm, golden glow on the snowy Chicago sidewalk, just as my grandfather's had. But the light it cast tonight, it wasn't just warmth, it was a boundary. It was a border. If my sister truly changes, that will be a story for the future. But tonight, at last, I have reclaimed the value of a lifetime spent at the sink, for the exact price on a bill she never thought she'd have to pay. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. So please comment below and let's all chat and share our thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories. Like this video. And if you want to see more stories like this one, show your support by hitting that hype button so this video can be heard by more people.